Hello and good afternoon and welcome to Super Husky Gaming. My name is Wells and today I'm going to be showcasing for you a little Earth Beatdown Aggro GOAT deck profile for Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's just jump right on into it. I got my lucky dollar right here, just like Joey Fila, and here comes the deck. The first cards I'm playing is a couple of giant rats. I love Giant Rat. I think playing him at 3 is a little bit cloggy just because you don't want to be drawing this guy in the late game. You really don't want to be drawing this guy at any point other than like the early to mid game. And you really, realistically, you're only going to see his effect go off maybe once, especially if you set it. He might get knocked, might get destroyed. But, you know, it's a good deterrent. And if it winds up going in the grave, hey, we've got a lot of answers for being able to take advantage of stuff going into the grave. But coming up right after Giant Rat are the cards that he's able to summon. One Mystic Swordsman level 2 for the face downs, Exile Force for anything, and Injection Fairy Lily for those big beefy boss monsters. But that does it for all those the weaker aspects of the deck. Moving on, we have the actual powerhouse monsters of the deck, starting off with probably the most popular one at the moment, Goblin Attack Force, and I'm playing 3 of these guys. I freaking love them. Him going into defense mode after attacking really doesn't matter. You know, going into defense mode isn't a big hit, mainly for the fact that I've got a lot of traps in the deck to keep monsters safe, and I've got a couple of tribute monsters to make use of like monsters like this being fodder. But usually if I've got another monster on board, my opponent will try to get rid of like the problem monster because they'll think the Goblin Attack Force isn't, you know, doing anything. But getting off one successful attack with him is really all you want to get. You know, you don't really need to get that much more. And much like Goblin Attack Force, I got another powerhouse, Berserk Gorilla. I love Berserk Gorilla. Zombrio the Dark was the other card I was considering switching out with this card, but the way I see it, it wasn't really my cup of tea just because Zombria's a dark monster and I wanted a lot of earths to justify the next couple of cards we're going to see, which is the Rock Spirit and 3 copies. Let me bring these out here. 3 copies of Gigantes. I love Gigantes and I love the Rock Spirit. A lot of people don't really play Rock Spirit. It's really just to get extra attack points on board. You know, Spirit having 1700 really isn't that big of a deal, but it's the fact that you're bringing this out with maybe other couple of monsters. Maybe you premature burial something, you bring out Rock Spirit and you normal summon. With a deck like this, you're being able to jump your opponent with 4,000 plus damage in a single turn is not unrealistic, and I love being able to get those sneaky 4,000 point hits. But coming in after the Blade Knights are, coming in after the Gigantes are a couple of Blade Knights. I spoiled it. Blade Knight's good. It's a rota target. It gets rid of those pesky face downs, and it helps really deal with just a lot of other problem monsters like Kaiku, maybe an Air Knight Parshaft if somebody's playing it. And, you know, although it can't get over Spy, hell, at least you won't take any damage when you attack it. And, you know, you attack a moth, you attack anything. And this card, being on board, being alone on board, isn't super great in a lot of other decks, but I've got power-up cards and other things that are designed to sort of keep him alive for more than a couple turns to force my opponent to like use spot removal, use something to get rid of him because, you know, he just becomes too much of a menace. When things start getting a little bit dire, I kind of switch out to the Different Dimension engine. I love Different Dimension Assailant and Different Dimension Warrior Lady. These are just when times get tough and you really need to throw out the defense, or you have to offensively get rid of my opponent's Chaos Monster. You know, you gotta ram these, take the damage. Getting rid of an opponent's monster is sometimes more important than the damage, provided that you're not gonna lose the next turn. And then we're topping off with the tribute monsters. I'm playing 1 Mobius, the Frost Monarch. This guy is just because I don't really like back row, and I don't currently own a Grand Marg. I'm going to get a Grand Marg to replace it, but I love back row destruction. I love being able to make sure that all of my power attacks and all of those are able to get through, and Mobius is that Monarch that really helps you do it. And speaking of being able to let my attacks go through, I'm also playing a Jinzo. Jinzo is, also there to just sort of help and make sure that my attacks go off, and make sure stuff like Gigantes and Rock Spirit are able to take advantage of their attack points, because Jinzo can get over most medium-sized threats. But that right there does it for the monsters. The pretty hefty monster lineup. Last time I counted, that is 19 monsters. But now we move on to the spells. Pretty basic spell lineup. We got the Pot of Greed, we've got the Graceful Charity, and we've got the Delinquent Duo. I love showcasing this in my videos. I'll never not showcase this in my videos. I love this very much. It's my favorite copy of Delinquent Duo for my friend Pedro, and I'll always have it. But basically the Trinity, putting stuff in grave for your Earth, for your Gigantes is pretty good. We've got Mystical Space Typhoon for the single destruction and Heavy Storm for the multi-destruction. We've got a lot of spells and traps that kind of stick on our field, but getting rid of your opponent's board, again, to be able to launch a massive assault. If it leads to a win, it leads to a win. Speaking of winning, Snatch Steal has won me so many freaking games. It's a pretty amazingly cheap card. It's the top deck of a Century card. And then we're playing 2 copies of Reinforcement of the Army, the magic card that moves 1 level 4 or lower warrior type monster. Your deck is then shuffled. I love all the old cards that say your deck is then shuffled. So much fun. But I'm playing 2 of those. Obviously, we have a big warrior engine, so being able to dig into our deck for any warriors is fantastic. The next card is United We Stand, and kind of pairing with United We Stand, I'm also playing Mage Power. I like that these cards are at 1 because it makes them feel like really big bomb cards. It makes them feel more like the big power-up cards that they're supposed to be. I've got a lot of, other equip spells and other things, and pairing these 2 together is pretty good. But having like these 2 with a couple of traps or just a little something, being able to attack your opponent and get a lot of damage on board, again with something like a Jinzo or a Mobius after you get the effect off, even if it gets destroyed the next turn, doing a ton of damage in 1 turn can mean the difference for turns to come. But to top off the spells, we're topping off with Premature Burial, to just bring back any of my Powerhouse monsters from the graveyard. It's fantastic. And Giant Trunade, which I love, being able to bounce stuff like Snatch and Preemie and my power-up spells, and, clearing my opponent's board, again, just for big attacks. You want to be able to do that, and this is one of those cards that annoyingly is able to let you do that. But with my luck, I usually am not able to get it off, but hopefully one day, right? But that does it for the spells. We got a pretty nice spell lineup, but now coming in for the traps to top off the deck, we got the classics. We got the Mirror Force Saint Amberia, Mirror Force. We got the Torrential Tribute. I love Torrential Tribute in this deck because I have 3 Goblin Attack Force. Goblin Attack Force goes to defense mode. My opponent gets a little antsy. They want to summon anything to just attack it and get rid of it. And I'm able to play this, and, more times than not, my opponent will bring out something nice because they want to get rid of Attack Force and just set up for next turns. And this is able to get me a lot of those free kills. But we're moving on to more destruction. We've got the Ring of Destruction. We've got the 2 Sakuretsu Armors, the 1 Call of the Haunted for revival, the 1 Ceasefire for all those pesky little face-down monsters, and I've got the 2 Solemn Judgments for countering pretty much anything. I feel like 3 would have just been a bit too cloggy at the moment, but, we'll see what the future brings. But I think putting in a 3rd might be pretty helpful. But I really hope that you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope that the deck profile was nice. I think it has a lot of potential, and I think that, tournament play, you'll be able to get a lot of damage out on board. But it is a pretty glass cannon-y kind of deck. It's not the greatest, but I really like its potential, and I love decks that are super aggressive. But either way, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in another one. Bye-bye!